Okay, so this one we're gonna make somebody who is dissolving. Think end of the Avengers. Sorry if I spoiled it for you. They all die at the end. All right, so I have the background copy here. What I need to do is I need to actually cut out the person and then kind of fill in the background here. So I am going to go color selection in this one, click some of the pink, add to the selection, and you can see I got most of the selection, so I'll add to it here to get rid of these little marching ants. There we go. And then I'll select on the main subject and subtract from the selection. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to hit Command-Shift-I to invert the selection. So now the person is selected. Hit Command-J, and I'm going to hit Command-J one more time. So what I want to do is go to the selection again, and you can see it just dissolved. So dang it, I'd have to do that all over again, or I could just hit Command and go to that layer. The only thing in that layer is the person or the subject, and you see that little square. It's going to make a selection, and my background layer is selected, so it's going to affect that piece right there. I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, and I'm going to go Content Aware. Click OK. All right, nothing happened. Well, except for a spinning wheel. When I turn off these other two layers, this is just going to be a completely pink wall. I could have done the same thing. I could have made the selection, duplicated her, and then just used my clone brush and made the wall pink. So this is what it looks like. Command D. That's fine. It's a little darker than I had wanted, but we'll keep it. Alright, so I'll turn on these two layers. I'm going to name this Original. Whoop. And this one I'm going to hit Command J again. So I'm going to move this one out, and I'm going to move this one out, and I am going to actually lock this down. All right, let's make sure. Good, we're still recording. All right, so this first one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Blur or Filter Blur, and I'm going to go to Gaussian Blur. But first, before I do that, I think I'm going to right-click, control-click, convert it to a smart object. That way, when I go back to the blur, I can re-blur it if I want to. So Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to make it pretty intense. And let's just maybe right there. Okay. And then I will move this kind of up and over. Now the thing with the smart filter is if I want to go back and redo the Gaussian blur, I can just double click it and I can re-blur it. It's not locked in. Alright, so I'm going to go there. I think I'm going to take the eraser tool, and it's not going to allow me to erase it because it's a smart object, so I'm going to say okay, rasterize it. That's fine. And there we go. Alright, so the next layer, I won't make it a smart object this time because I know I have to erase part of it. I will go in here, click my eraser, and move it over a little bit more. So you see that I'm kind of getting a line that's moving up as if somebody were going to dissolve away. Alright, so blur that. Filter blur. I want to blur it even more. So let's say 13. Alright, good. So now I'm going to hit Shift and select those two layers. I am going to merge them and add a layer mask. If I hit the Alt button down, it'll make it black. There we go. So they are gone. Imagine that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush tool, and I downloaded a brush that was entitled Dissolve. So it's called, not cracks, there we go, Disintegration. I'm going to click it. You can see I get this big disintegration, and I'm actually going to go up to my windows and go to brush settings, and I'm going to click the scattering, and you can see by changing that it's going to change the brush, and each time I click the brush it's going to change the shape of the brush, so it's not always consistent. Yeah, it's not doing much. Alright, so let me go into dynamics. Let's see if that does anything. Change the angle. There we go. Click the smoothing there. So all of these things will actually go through and give you different brush personalities, if you will. But I definitely want the scattering on. And okay. So now what I'm going to do is, I hope you see where this is going. I'm going to click on my layer mask, and I'm going to click white, and there we go. That might be a little too big. Click X. See how the brush is changing each time? I just went back to X, and I can even change the opacity on it. And now I'm going to go to my original, unlock it. I only locked it because I didn't want it to move. Put a layer mask on there, and what's going to happen when I click black on there? Nothing. I had to figure out why nothing happened, and if you were following along, you realize that the opacity is too low. Switch it. There we go. So by hitting that layer mask, what had happened is, you see the reason that we started to we covered up the background so that we can go in there and we can see the background when we use that layer mask out there. So now if I want to, and let's say I want to touch some of this stuff up, I can go back to the black layer mask, switch it, and I'm just going to turn this back into just a regular old brush. There we go. And you can see that I can start just brushing over that. And I can start touching that piece up there. There we go. So that is how you do a dissolve. Now there are some other videos on there. You can do the other one that people had done is, if I take this layer mask off, and I will take that layer mask off. Okay, what they did is, let's hit Command J. And instead of making copies of this, what they did is they went up to the filter liquify, and what they did is they had the first button selected, and they just kind of moved the person or the subject out. Click OK. And then they did the layer mask on it. Oh, Command I to invert the layer mask, and then went to the brush tool, and we'll go to the pieces down there again and switch it to white, and you can see that kind of the same effect happens. It just does it a little bit differently. Okay, and then we'll go here, add a layer mask, and you can see that you get a whole different effect there. All right, good luck.